Welcome to Crypto After Dark, your crypto podcast brought to you by The Pillars. Join us as we dive into candid, unscripted conversations with the visionaries, influencers, and creators shaping the crypto world. Whether you're a crypto aficionado or new to this crazy space, Crypto After Dark is your weekly dose of engaging stories and personal revelations, making the vast crypto space a little more relatable, one episode at a time. Today, we're joined by two incredible guests who bring a unique perspective to our conversations. First up, Dr. Kramer, a real-life doctor whose journey into the crypto universe comes through shared experiences with a mining enthusiast. Joining her is Miss Vosk, the backbone of a thriving YouTube channel dedicated to mining, Voskcoin. Together with a partner, they ventured full-time into YouTube, proving that behind every successful channel, there's a story of partnership and perseverance. Today, they're here not as the wives of crypto aficionados, but as individuals who've navigated the unique life that comes with being closely tied to the world of mining fanatics. Let's explore the experiences, the challenges, and the personal journeys. Dr. Kramer, Miss Vosk, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, David. Alexa and MJ, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Pleasure. I'm really excited for this conversation because it's not often we get to speak to people that are seen as sitting behind those that we know in this space. So I'm excited to hear what it's like from your perspective. And there's a bit of a mix as well in terms of experiences within the space. I know, Dr. Badgerland, you are in fact an actual doctor, and we'll kind of get into that in a bit. And Ms. Vosk, you are now full-time with Voskcoin, and that's something that you transitioned into a couple of years ago. So you kind of working in this space now for a couple of years, while yourself, MJ, haven't been. I think that's going to give us a really interesting perspective and a really nice dynamic for the conversation. So, MJ, let me start with yourself. From the point of view of someone who doesn't really operate in this space, are you able or willing to give a little bit of a background in terms of what you do so we can get an idea of just how much there is a difference between yourself and the wonderful Badger?
Sure. So I'm the medical director for the trauma recovery program at Rogers Hospital in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. So my role is I treat individuals with PTSD in a residential treatment facility. So they live there and they're with us for 2 or 3 months and then step down to a lower level of care. So I am a psychiatrist. I'm board certified in forensic psychiatry as well as adult psychiatry, and that's what I do for a living.
Wow. Have you always been in psychiatry?
No, my undergrad was in broadcast journalism, and I was a DJ for a few years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then I was a television producer and then moved on to medicine later in life.
Wow. Okay. So quite the experience. I like it. So Badger has a lot to live up to. How about yourself, Alexa?
Yeah, so like you said, I've worked with Voskcoin full time for since 2021. So for a few years now, I've been basically part-time kind of behind the scenes since Voskcoin started. A lot of stuff happens behind the scenes. Like after my old job, I come from a technical communication background and also studied a little bit of sociology as well and leadership. So before this, I was a program manager and kind of had my hands in some UX design and graphic design and that kind of stuff. So that was a nice overlap for me, kind of moving into the YouTube side of things and just contributing there. It was kind of a cool overlap to kind of learn the space in a different industry.
Now, as I understand it, you and Vosk met before his YouTube career, right? You guys kind of got together before he even decided to start a channel.
Yes, yeah, we've been together since 2016. So the channel launched, I guess, 2017. So we met before then.
What was it like when he came to you and said, I am thinking about starting a YouTube channel? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, he actually kind of has a background in YouTube with some car detailing as well. So he had a YouTube channel before Voscoin. I don't think a lot of people knew that. So he had that channel when I first met him, and then he started doing crypto stuff. First, it started with one miner, then it went to 5 and 10, and I'm sure Dr. Badgerland knows much about that as well. But he started just with one miner, and he was like, well, let me document my journey and just kind of see what happens with it. It originally was just a mining journey, and then it just kind of turned into a channel. It was like, wow, there's not a lot of people out there that are kind of talking about this stuff and giving tutorials and reviews and stuff. So let's see what happens.
Right. Now, I'm sure this is going to be very different from MJ, and I have seen some pictures of some of the boxes that come through your house, and I absolutely feel for you, MJ, sometimes. But I'll start with you, Alexa, in terms of that transition. Was it a little easier for you to understand the end goal, especially when these miners are coming in and perhaps you're getting more into the mining scene? And we know how much that takes, not just in terms of capital to actually earn something back, but the amount that you might have to bring, you have to think about calling, you have to think about creating a facility to get these things into. Was it kind of easier for you, or maybe not as hard to understand that tradition, or did you struggle with it to begin with?
Um, I always knew Drew always does some crazy stuff, so I was like, okay, like whatever you're passionate about, like that's what I'm here for. I'm here to just support that. I love seeing him kind of take on new projects and building stuff from scratch, and like him and his vision of, oh, we have this immersion shed now, we have an HED mining shed, and it's just cool to kind of see him almost build like a playground to kind of mess around with stuff in. I will say I think the cryptocurrency aspect of mining to me was a little like, what is this? Like, I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions about cryptocurrency, and working in the space has definitely taught me more about the actual applications of them and not just what you hear about like on the news and stuff like that. So I think to me, the mining aspect was super cool and I was like all for it. It was the cryptocurrency aspect of just learning about the different projects and how to actually use cryptocurrency and all of that. That to me was a little bit of a hurdle, but definitely more understanding and involved with it now.
Right. Great. Yeah, I was listening actually to an AMA that you did in which you were discussing educating people within this space in terms of cryptocurrency and how you can translate the people that know a lot about this space to those that don't know very much. And they were, the person that was interviewing you was singing your praises in terms of how much you managed to do when you came on board with Vosk Coin to really change how they operated and make them more kind of slick and really dial into that education. And I believe Trello was one of the saving graces there. MJ, in terms of for yourself, what is it like, or what was it like when perhaps the first one or two miners come through the door and you can see that Badger is getting a bit of a bug for this? Because from what I know of him so far, he's got an infectious energy. He loves throwing himself into things very, very quickly, it seems. And once he's made his mind up on doing something, he's determined to do it. How does that translate when you see your house being filled with random items?
Yeah, I think that describes him perfectly. Uh, the first miners we bought, we called them the four horsemen of the apocalypse. They were huge. They generated a lot of heat, and we didn't know what to do with the heat. The basement was very, very hot. And so he put together an apparatus to route the heat through the vents and then out the door and also underneath our floor. So I had heated tile in the bathroom, which was nice. And then the electricity bill was a bit of a shock because it was thousands of dollars. And then other miners started coming in of different shapes and sizes. And pretty soon our entire basement, not to mention the kitchen table, was overrun with different miners of different sizes and capacities, and it just took off from there.
Right. And your immediate reaction, is that trepidation? Are you thinking, I'm a psychiatrist, I have my work is cut out for me here. I'm gonna have to perhaps have some sessions where I sit him down and have a conversation. I mean, how do you kind of deal with that process?
Right. And he was working for American Family Insurance full time at the time that he started this venture.
Right.
And I remember he sat down with me after about 3 months and said, "This is what I want to do. This is my passion. I think I finally found what I want to do with my career." And so we discussed, the pros and cons of leaving AmFam and that steady paycheck, and devoting full time to mining. And it was an easy decision because he was so enthusiastic. This just lit him up from the
Mm.
inside. He really did not enjoy working for American Family. And, this autonomy that he has, and he's doing something that he's really passionate about, it just changed him. He's a happier person. He's enthusiastic. He can't wait to get up in the morning. Unfortunately, in the morning means he's up at 3 a.m.
Right.
And then he goes to sleep, around 9 or 10. So it's long days, but it's worth it. And I know that, eventually those days will be shorter, but for now, I think the whole family is just all in to this venture together.
Great. I mean, you have to, maybe you feel like you have to say that because he's listening. I hope not. And I can always remove him from the space temporarily if you wanted to say something more honest. But no, I like that you're fully behind him. And it tends to be the way with people you can see a passion in people, regardless of what it is that they're throwing their passion into. And if you really recognize that someone truly loves what it is that they're doing and are able to, I mean, I can't believe the hours that he works and how long he's up for at times. And it, I guess, just shows his dedication to wanting to make this an absolute massive success. And that sometimes can be hard to argue with, right?
Yes, absolutely. But on the flip side of the coin, we can't park the cars in the garage. The entire garage is taken up with miners or empty boxes where the miners were shipped to us, and then he will leave at a moment's notice to, drive over to a mining facility to install them. And he'll
Right.
be gone for 2 or 3 days. And when he gets back, he sleeps, for a good 18, 20 hours straight because it's physically, a lot of work as well.
Mm.
But we're now Marriott Platinum members from all the hotel stays
Yeah.
that we've had. But yes, it's a lot. It's very unexpected at times. Um, it's hard to plan. So there are a lot of events that he has to dip out on at the last minute. So that is a bit of a downside.
Right. And I think it's nice for people within our space to hear what it can be like for people that aren't actually saturated with this space, because you don't necessarily know just what some of those hours are like for those that are sitting watching and thinking, what on earth are you doing? It's this kind of weird play money. And MJ, you spoke about autonomy in the AMA that you did also, actually, in terms of that being maybe the best and the worst part of what you guys do. The best in that you have license to create content that you want to create, but you're dealing with people that are going to give you criticism because they want you to go in a certain direction and don't like what you're putting out there. Was that maybe one of the more surprising aspects of stepping into this space full time, or was there something else that kind of really stood out to you?
I definitely think that was surprising in the beginning because I think cryptocurrency is such an ever-changing industry. You can become an expert one day, and the next month something changes, and we have to learn more about different regulations, especially within the U.S. And new miners are coming out, and new crypto projects are coming out, and there's airdrops you have to track. So there's a lot going on, and a lot of people are very opinionated about certain things. So we kind of created the channel as a way, like I said earlier, just to document our crazy crypto journey, is what we say. And at the end of the day, it's our journey, and we like to share what we learn along the way. And some people are going to disagree about, well, you shouldn't be using Bitcoin miners. You should be using this, or why did you do hard drive mining and stuff like that? So I think it's surprising, but in the same light, it's like everyone's passionate about something, and a lot of people have a lot of things to say online, and we opened a space where people can share that stuff, and we do like to engage with people and kind of get new thoughts because it is an ever-changing space, and everybody out there is doing their own research and is doing their own stuff. So we like to kind of create our content, hear what people are saying about it, and then use that to kind of figure out what we want to do next.
I like that you say it's about documenting your journey, with the emphasis on your. I think that's really important because it's different from Badgerland in his journey because he's not putting content out there. He's not or won't need to feel beholden to anybody to do or go in a certain direction or cover a certain thing. And it must be hard, I suppose, when you're dealing with a YouTube channel that is of a substantial size and a Discord that is of substantial size. You've got a large community to juggle those pressures. Did that come up as a conversation between you both when you were discussing perhaps you transitioning more full time to Vosk Coin and taking off it on the adventure together?
Yeah, definitely. I think I originally took the jump just because I saw how crazy things got in the last bull run. I saw that the channel was picking up speed, that Discord was getting bigger, our community was growing, and ultimately our main goal was how can we make more and better content and also create this mining farm because we started originally with GPU mining in a shed at our house, and soon we were like, let's check out immersion, let's check out hard drive mining, let's check out everything and kind of set up stuff and share what we're learning because there isn't a lot of documented kind of tutorials and people trying different things. And so we wanted to make a space for all of the different mining types. That way, if you're into different types, you can come and check the videos out. You don't have to buy products to see if what they would work like, to see what their performance are like. Just kind of check in and see. And a lot of as the channel and everything was growing, there's a lot of like admin type tasks that take up a lot of time that I just saw Vosk trying to juggle. So not only just managing our team, we have a team of 5 editors and just getting all the mining equipment, going to meetings with our electric company, kind of working through emails. It's just a lot to balance for one person. And I saw it was kind of overburdening Drew, and I would just wanted to see like, how can I help with this? What can I do to kind of get you to focus and go back to what you're passionate about, which is the mining side.
Right. Do you ever miss your old job out of curiosity?
Sorry, say that again?
Do you ever miss your old job out of curiosity? Do you ever think back on it and think, oh, I actually miss not having some of the extra pressures that come with this? Or now that you're in it, do you kind of think, actually, this is where my passion is? A bit like MJ was saying about Badger.
There are some days where I miss what I used to do. I did a lot of like program management when it was a lot of face-to-face interaction, and that's something I miss a little bit. We do have an international team, and I love our team, and it's great. I'm the kind of person that likes to get up and go see people in the office and kind of meet and just that interaction. I did a lot of event planning at my previous job as well. So that's something we're trying to integrate a little bit more of moving forward, is just some more like community engagement, kind of see what events we can start going to. But I definitely don't regret moving to full-time with Voscoin at all. I'm here to support his passion and do what I can to help. And it's fun. I like our team and I like what we're doing, and it's cool to be able to have the autonomy and be able to build what you want.
Great. It should be fun. I mean, that's one of the main things about this space, is that if you really love it, it can be a lot of fun. And I mean, David and I certainly have a lot of, I mean, they're long hours and, we can argue, but there is a lot of fun to be had and we really enjoy it. MJ, based on what I know of Badger, like I said, and the character that he has, do you ever find yourself looking at how much fun he's having and thinking, I need to rein him in? Are there times where you come in as the sensible, cool head and say, hey, let's take a step back, let's reassess, are we going to take this route? Can we maybe take a bit of a middle path here so that it isn't crazy gung-ho every single time?
Yeah, I do try to be the voice of reason, but we have 4 kids in the house. 2 are grown and out of the house. But he tends to get them excited as well. So it ends up being kind of a 5 against 1 where I'm saying, hey, let's try to reel this in a bit. And the kids are just excited because sometimes they go with him on these trips.
Right.
He took my son to a conference. Our 16-year-old pulled him out of school, took him to a conference, and he came home just very enthusiastic and excited. So It is challenging to be the voice of reason with someone who is just so in love and enamored with, what he's doing. But
Right.
yes, sometimes he will listen to reason. Sometimes I'm outvoted.
Well, it sounds like he's very cleverly leveraging the children to make sure he gets those votes.
Right, he is,
How
absolutely.
how has the education been for you in terms of learning about this space? Are you interested in it? Is it something that you're not really interested in, but you do it because you love the man that is doing it? I'm really curious to understand how you are finding that transition and whether or not, or what the things are that you like and don't like about this space.
So I think it's a little bit of both, because there are certain aspects of it that are really interesting. But one of the reasons that I went into psychiatry when I got my medical degree instead of another field is because finance and math, not my forte at all. So some of the technical aspects, whenever he starts talking about them, he knows that he loses me. He says I get kind
Right.
of this glazed over look. But the concepts I think are absolutely fascinating. I do have a lot of the apps on my phone, and I follow it at work as well. But yes, I think what occurs is we've got magazines laying around the house, so I do some reading to try to learn some things to keep up with him. But as soon as I grasp a concept, there's something new coming out
Hmm.
that he's talking about. So it is challenging to keep up with. The funny thing is, we adopted a dog from one of the shelters, and we named her Cadena. And so Cadena is the one coin that I really keep an eye on, simply because it's the namesake for my beloved pound puppy.
I love it. And Cadena is very apt, especially for our space, because um, we were we brought Badger on as a Pillars portfolio partner, and one of the things that we're doing is now mining Cadena,
Mhm.
entirely through his suggestion. So we are also keeping a keen eye on that token. Um, he gives a lot to this space, and it's wonderful to see, and he's certainly trying to give a lot to this space. And I love that you are a part of it in some small way, and I love the fact that you're willing to sit on a stage and speak to an avatar of the Mad Hatter, um, with no name, about your experiences. I think that's been very impressive to me. It takes a lot of guts actually to do that. So thank you very much. Um, you're transitioning, Alexa, actually more towards maybe being in front of the camera a little more. I say tentatively only because I've seen some rumblings of people wanting to see you more, and I noticed that another video was released. If that is the case, how are you finding that journey from being someone that sits in the background streamlining an entire process through to someone who might actually be speaking to the camera more and be the person of interest?
It's definitely an interesting experience. I have a lot of background in kind of like data analytics and looking at how content performs and kind of taking a look at who's watching our stuff, where do we lose them in a video. I spend a lot of time just kind of looking at all the YouTube analytic stuff behind the scenes, and I get just lost in it all. I think that stuff is so interesting. I love the rhetoric behind like what keeps people's attention and what doesn't.
Mhm.
So I think it's a cool way to kind of adapt that and create like my own spin on content and kind of see this is what I think people would like to watch. These are the questions I think they will have, and kind of seeing that. It's definitely harder than it looks. Especially Drew has done over 1,000 videos on the channel, and I don't know how he does it. Just be able to talk in front of the camera all the time and like have a new topic to talk about. It's
Right.
something I'm experimenting with. I'm definitely not a super technical person, so I do enjoy talking more about the topics where I can be like, yeah, we just spent a day working on a deployment of an immersion system. That was one of the latest videos that I did. That's something
Mhm.
I can talk about. I can talk about that experience. I know exactly what happened. But when it comes down to kind of analyzing different projects and getting into more of the technicalities behind mining, that's kind of where I feel a little less comfortable. And I also think people are a lot more opinionated about. So I tend to try to stick to the topics that are more about the experience and the install and a review and that kind of stuff. So it is definitely a new kind of thing that's out of my comfort zone, but I'm going to try.
Right. But well, I mean, trying is the first step. And like I just said to MJ, it takes a lot of guts to do that, actually, especially if it's not a field that you traditionally come from and you've only transitioned to this relatively recently in terms of life, not this space, because, you know, a week in this space is 100 years in crypto land. But, you know, that it does take a lot of guts to make that transition. And it's nice that you're learning about something that your fiance, soon to be husband, is heavily involved in and very interested in. I laugh at MJ's comment on the glazed over look, because that's the exact same look that my partner gets every time I open my mouth to start talking about it, let alone get words in. There is a glaze that comes over her eyes when I know that she's not listening anymore. Do you guys, bearing in mind you work together in this space, do you ever clash on anything? You know, typically, what might it be when you do clash?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think we both come from different perspectives of Drew is very much a like gets really excited about something and wants to run with it immediately, and I'm very much a like get stuck in analysis paralysis. Let's talk about numbers, let's talk about the process. So that's definitely, I think, where we clash a little bit. But I think at the same time we balance each other out in that way, because there are some things where I'm like, okay, let's think about this. What if this happens? Or who should we talk to about this before we do this install and that kind of stuff. Whereas I think I also kind of, like I said, get an analysis paralysis, and he's like, let's do this, let's go. And then I think it ends up balancing out, which is a nice thing. It's also good to have like another person to talk to about something, because we're so involved in our work every single day. So it's nice to have another person to kind of bounce ideas off of and kind of get their perspective.
I always say about this space, it's very interesting that a lot of people in this space, I would say the vast majority, are people that want to jump in with both feet first without actually taking a step back and analyzing. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of money lost in order to get there. So, do you think, in your experience, that this space really needs more people like yourself, like MJ perhaps, who step in and say, let's analyze the situation first before we decide we're going to go full steam ahead?
Is that a question for me or MJ?
It's a question for yourself.
Okay. I definitely think so. I think there's always that kind of player on the team that will help. I think another thing that MJ and myself might bring is being women in the space. I think there's like less than 4% of women in crypto right now. And I think if we're looking at mass adoption, that's something that needs to change. I know we saw huge barriers with just women in tech, and I think we're finally coming to a place where that has improved. But I think we definitely need to see more women in crypto, bring new perspectives. And I think women tend to have kind of that analytical background and thinking through processes. And again, it balances out. Obviously, not everybody is the same, but I would love to see more women in crypto.
I agree with you. And I'm glad you brought it up, because I was deliberately not going to bring it up, only because, you know, you face enough challenges as a woman coming into this space as is. And the second they see or get a sniff of you being a woman by your name, there's a whole heap of extra trouble that comes with it that we don't have to deal with as men in this space. So what I wanted to focus on first and foremost is just speaking to two people, but I'm glad that you bring up the woman aspect of it. Do you agree, MJ, that this space, I mean, it's clearly a male dominated space. Do you feel more women could benefit from jumping into this space? And why do you think they don't at the moment?
Yes, absolutely. I feel more women could benefit from jumping in to this space. I can tell you, every job I've ever had has really been more of a male dominated. field, and so there are certain inherent challenges, and I think some of the difficulties are those misperceptions that can occur, and just kind of breaking through that and showing that women are competent and capable, and will be valued in this space. I think that's really important, actually.
I agree. I think it's a pretty sad state of affairs that we even have to talk about women being considered competent in any kind of space. Certainly in this one, right, where it
And we have
really doesn't matter. Go on, sorry,
I
after
was
you.
gonna say we have 3 daughters, and we want them to look at this as an opportunity to realize they can do whatever they'd like, and not worry about the fact that they are women. Just go into something that they have a passion for. And our youngest, Allie, really seems to enjoy following Bitcoin. And she also has little hands, so she was helping with some of the repairs when we had to repair miners. And she just really seems to have an aptitude for it. So I want her to see strong women as role models in this space, and who can help kind of pave that way for them if that's the path she chooses.
Right. Yeah, I love that. I also love the fact that I'm learning more about Badger every day, and it appears those kids are leveraged on a regular basis, including manual labor. I hope she at least got some pocket money for those repairs that she was doing.
Yes, she always gets a little trip to Culver's to get some custard and cheese curds.
Okay, perfect. Phew. So we're not going to have to have an event with Badger in which we give him a hard time about that. Um, Alexa, your thoughts back on that? I know you say we should have more women in this. What do you think we need to do to encourage more women into this space? In which case,
That's a good question. I think having more events like this, honestly, and showing that there are women in the space, because it is hard to see them. I think just being able to share perspectives on our involvement is definitely a good start. I definitely think we have room to grow, and I'm excited to see more women, hopefully within the next bull run for sure.
I hope so too, and I think we will see more women as the space becomes more accessible, and as spaces like this pop up that just allow people to have a voice without, like I say, all of the extra crap that comes with it. I hope that that will encourage more and more people to jump in. But let's get back to the two gentlemen in question. Um, they're sitting and listening, so I want to have at least something juicy out of both of you if I can, that I can hold over them for a short period of time. So MJ, let me start with yourself. There must be a pet peeve that you have with a lot of this. Is there something, a pet peeve that you can touch on that drives you absolutely crazy every time it happens?
Oh, just one, because there's many, multiple.
I'll listen
Uh,
to all of them.
So, he has his office in here, and it's like a little fortress. The interesting thing is that, he's got 4 or 5 computer monitors, but the doors, they're French doors and they're glass. So we can see each other through the doors. And so um, he will, when I knock on the door to let him know it's time for dinner, he doesn't even look up from the computer. I just see a finger with a little 1-minute sign go up over the top of a monitor. And
Oh,
then 20 minutes later, I'm back at the door. And then I'm seeing 2 minutes. So apparently the time frame continues to change. So it is challenging, especially if we have a deadline for something, because he just gets engrossed. And, then I'll get busy. And before you know it, a couple hours have gone by, and whatever it is that we were going to do has just slipped my mind completely.
right.
So that is, yeah, he really spends a great deal of time in his own little domain here, and it sometimes makes it challenging to get him engaged.
he's very open in our space about having ADHD, and I live with someone who has ADHD as well. And a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, I recognize in some of the things I have to deal with. Do you find that that is also, I mean, this space is a magnet for people with ADHD because things move so quick and they can throw their focus into something for a short burst of time and then move on to something else that they can focus on. So it's really a perfect environment for people that have ADHD. Do you find that this space calms that down, or does it magnify it a bit?
I think it magnifies it a bit. We're actually doing the interview. I'm in his office and I'm surrounded by probably 150 different colored post-it notes that are stuck on the monitors.
Right.
They're on the walls. They're on the chair. They're on the lamp. And so, yeah, I do think he tends to get really excited about one area and then he gets distracted and goes over to another topic, and then you've got another set of notes on that topic. But it all interrelates. Sometimes it's hard to see the big picture, though. So yes, I think that it really amplifies some of the attention issues for him. But he's got a system. I don't understand it, but he does, and that's really what matters.
Yeah, there's always a method behind the madness, right? Or at least that's what they claim. There's always a method behind the madness. Post-its might drive me absolutely crazy, to be perfectly honest with you. So, again, all power to you if that's something that you're able to kind of look past. Alexa, with Drew, are there post-its? That's the first question.
There are not a lot of post-its, and I think that drives me equally as mad.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of ideas that are talked about, and we're like, yeah, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this, and then there are no post-its. So we get excited about a lot of different things, and that's one thing we're trying to get better about, is picking one thing, finishing it out, and then going to the next and seeing how we can keep growing. So, but I will say, MJ, I can definitely relate to that 5 more minutes dinner hand there. We don't have glass on our doors, and most of the time Drew is shooting videos, so mine is more of a dinner in 5 text, and then dinner's ready and dinner's getting cold. So
Well, he
I like it
usually
too.
manages to join us for dessert, at least.
he has his
Maybe that's
priorities.
his favorite meal. Holding off. I like that you're the one that wants the post-its. So there must be something else outside of the never turning up for dinner because time flies. Is there something else that is a pet peeve for you that, I mean, I know he's listening as we speak, so I want to tease him a tiny bit because he's not going to be able to get on stage. Can we tease him with something that you kind of think, oh, this is crazy. It drives me nuts every time it happens.
So we definitely drew a line when we moved to our new house of no more minors in the house. There's currently a minor in the house. So that rule didn't really hold up. But I think one of my semi-pet peeves, but I also find it kind of funny, is when he gets really passionate about something, he'll like turn into YouTube mode and like start explaining things and using his YouTube voice and everything. And I have to remind him like, hey, we're just talking about this. Like, I understand you're really passionate about it, but he definitely gets into like a presentation mode, which is kind of funny to hear at the dinner table.
Right. I like that presentation mode. That is sometimes something that I get accused of every now and again. But like I said, the conversations don't go very far because those eyes absolutely glaze over. So, we're talking obviously about what it's like living with people that are passionate in this space and what it's like for you guys and your experiences. In terms of where you hope these guys are going to be in, let's say, a year, 2 years, 3 years time, and let's start with you, Alexa, what are your hopes and dreams? And then yours is going to be obviously slightly different perhaps from MJ's because you are part of Vosk Coin and you work with them full time. So it's very much a business for yourself. But where do you hope to be in a year's time? Or where are you hoping Drew is in particular with yourself in a year's time?
We're working on building out our mining farm, making it a little bit bigger. Our goal is 1 megawatt, and we're hoping to kind of expand that. And I'm really hoping that we can kind of take that and make that the key focus of a lot of our content moving forward. We've kind of dabbled in a lot of different areas: hard drive mining, immersion mining, building a mining farm, review videos, even looking at cryptocurrency projects and games and stuff. And so I think we've kind of found our niche, and I'm excited to kind of see where that goes. So I'm hoping we can make significant progress on the farm and kind of settle into it a little bit, because it is a lot when you're exploring all these different topics within crypto, because people are talking about so much in so many different ways. And so I think it'll be exciting to kind of just settle on one topic and area and really grow that significantly.
Great. I have dropped your YouTube channel into the community question section so for anybody that listening wants to check the farm that you're referring to, they can go ahead and take a look at some of those videos, because you do show a lot of the stuff, and the immersion mining that you guys have just brought in and those drums. I mean, the whole setup is very impressive.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. You guys are the ones that are not only building it but also documenting it. So I mean, it's a real treat for us to be able to see kind of what it's like on the other side.
Yeah, that's definitely our goal, is just kind of making things more attainable and more consumable, because it is very overwhelming, this being a new space and all, and we just kind of want to make it easier for kind of the average Joe at-home miner to really get involved.
Great. And that's what it's all about. I mean, one of the things that people don't often tell you, especially when they're in this space, because everybody wants to be an expert, is just how intimidating it can be to speak to somebody who really knows their stuff. So when people start talking to me about miners, I mean, you mentioned the technical side of things, and I'm sure Drew knows the technical side inside and out, as does Badger. Every time Badger starts talking about the technicals, my brain goes into overdrive as to how I'm going to keep up and how I'm going to be able to respond. So sometimes he gets silence out of me because I have nothing to say back. I just don't get it. So it's getting that education out there is key. MJ, in terms of farms, we know Alexa now has one, and it's substantial. Is that on the cards? Is if the time comes and you're in a position to do so, will you allow Badger to create something on a property that you guys live on, or is that off the cards completely?
You know, our HOA will not allow us to do that. But you know, we are excited about the business and being able to have locations elsewhere, which
Right.
is something that Justin is setting up. But yeah, we're in a residential area. So it would be ideal because I'd keep them closer to home, for one thing, if it was actually in the house. But the one farm that we've got, it's a good, what, 6 or 7, 8 hours away. And just to continue to build that, with the hope that in a couple of years, honestly, I'd like to be close to retirement, based on, you know, letting Justin take the reins and be the full-time breadwinner for the house with crypto.
Nice. I like that you've thrown down the gauntlet. He is listening. So, Justin, you know where you're needing to be in a couple of years' time. Have you ever been tempted, or would you ever be tempted to transition into helping him full time? Or would you just rather he did it and you get to watch from afar and be supportive from afar?
I'd rather be supported from afar. And there's a couple of reasons for that. You know, a lot of what I do at work, even when I do retire, I'm going to volunteer at community mental health clinics to help the underserved. So that's, you know, that's my passion. That's what I will do, even if I'm not getting an income from it. And the other point is, I'm not risk adverse by any means, but the vast majority of our investments up until now have not been as volatile. So when we did start looking into this more seriously, I can tell you that kind of watching the Bitcoin, uh, the price fluctuate was anxiety provoking. And so I would text him and he would say, "You just can't stare at it like that." I'd say, "It's up, it's down." He said, "That's what's going to happen with it." So it is something that I'm excited that, he's passionate about it, but just the price action alone tends to give me anxiety. So I think I'll focus on what I do best, and he
Mm.
can focus on crypto.
It raises an interesting question, you saying that. Do you think people that are too saturated by this space perhaps become a little bit desensitized to the fact that it's real money they're playing with? Do you ever see that in, I say playing, I mean, even the language I'm using is dangerous when it comes to actually investing. You shouldn't ever play with your money. Do you see that in Justin? Have you ever noticed that? Is that something that you've sometimes got to rein back? Just that this idea that people seem to distance themselves and disassociate themselves from the actual loss that can happen.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we very much have had that exact conversation on multiple occasions. And you're right. It's a different animal. It's a different beast. So it is harder to conceptualize it. And so it is, I think one of my roles sometimes is to be the voice of reason and rein him in some.
Right. And how about yourself, Alexa? Have you found that your attitude towards perhaps investments has changed the longer you've been working in this environment?
I think, well, Drew does most of the investing, but I think I share the same sentiment as MJ. It definitely is, there's no other space out there where you openly talk about earnings and how much miners are making per day and that kind of investment. I mean, there are some spaces obviously with the finance and everything like that, but I'm not used to that space. So to me, you definitely have to have a level head of like, okay, well, how much is Bitcoin worth right now? Is this worth that much? What could you get in real life with that? Because a lot of times it is numbers on a screen, and I think people do get desensitized.
Yeah, I echo both of those sentiments. I think they do. I think it's one of the biggest dangers in this space, actually, is people desensitizing themselves to what they can actually lose. And the more that we can educate people that it is real money, that you are, sometimes taking massive risks, and the volatility, as you said, MJ, is huge and far exceeds any other normal stocks. Is something that people really need to consider. But that's why channels like yours and spaces like ours and conversations like these are so worthwhile, is that we can discuss these things. I'm aware that I've had you both now for an hour, so I am going to start winding it down. Are there any questions? Let's start with you, MJ, that you thought I might ask, that I'm now rather cruelly bringing to everybody's attention and asking you to tell me about.
I think this is pretty much what I expected. And, I asked Justin, are there particular questions that you think will be asked? And I think he was pretty much dead on accurate with what it is that we've discussed thus far. So.
Okay, I'm very curious now to have a conversation with him afterwards, to see how he found it all. How about yourself, Alexa? Is there anything that you wanted to cover? For you, it's obviously a bit different. You've got a channel, so I understand if you want to talk about that maybe, but something I didn't ask but should have.
No, you did a great job moderating, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both very much for coming in and speaking. I very much appreciate it. It's been a really interesting conversation for myself. Very refreshing to speak to two people that are not traditionally from this space, and certainly one that doesn't even work in this space, but is supporting someone that does. I love consuming Voscoin on YouTube, so it's been a great pleasure to speak to you, Alexa, and I am very much enjoying speaking to Justin a lot in the background. This community doesn't necessarily know how much we're speaking in the background, but we're speaking a lot, and his energy is very infectious, and he's been great for us and great for our space. So it's been a pleasure speaking to you too, MJ.
You as well. And I also want to thank Drew and Alexa for giving Badgerland a platform.
Of course. Thank you for accepting our minors this week.
Of course.
Okay, well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you guys so much. We're going to run our giveaway now, so everybody knows what they need to do in order to be eligible. The button's going to click up. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and I hope we can do it again sometime soon.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Take care.